Alright, let's go through the graphing a circle assignment and just kind of see what it's talking about, where it's going, what we're trying to learn from the whole thing. I'm going to start by showing you a circle. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit. Now in this circle, we have a center point. Okay, to find the distance in a center point to any place, so like let's say right there, we want to know how far away that is from there. We would have to, try to find how high it goes up. So we would find out how high it is, and we'd want to find out how far over it goes. Okay, and that turns into a right triangle. Okay, so for example here, if we have, let's just say point A comma B, whatever this is, okay, and we want to know how far it is to point X comma Y over here. So we want to know the radius. The reason why we want to know the radius is so we can plot, any point throughout the whole circle and say, okay, all of these points are on the circle, and that's what we're being asked to do. Label the center and at least 4 points on the circle. So we've got to find out what A and B are, and we got to find out how far away that is, so the radius. To do that, we can say, all right, we need to know how far it goes from here to here. So how far does it go up? And we find that by finding y minus b. Okay, so the point y, we want to take away b, and that tells us the difference between those 2 points. On the same hand, we want to see how far it goes over. And so we have x minus a. Now if we look at this and we see that this is a right triangle, and we know it is because we're doing a completely horizontal with a completely vertical line, we want to say, okay, that makes radius the hypotenuse of this triangle. With the hypotenuse of the triangle, that tells us that we can do x minus a squared, okay, plus y minus b squared, and that will give us the radius squared. Okay, so that's the formula that we're setting up. That's the formula of a circle. And as we go through there, if you find any formula that's not set up in that order, well, then you need to rework it so that it becomes set up in that order. And some of the questions will come up with that. For example, on the homework, you'll see, let's see, I thought there was 1 or 2, but I'm not seeing them right now. Yeah, it looks like most of them are pretty close to in that format. On this page, yeah. So they're all very close to that format. So you just might need to do a little bit of work. So that is how we get everything set up. Now, we want to find out, okay, how far away is this circle, the radius? Excuse me, we want to find out what the radius is. So let's switch modes now to the homework here and say, okay, the radius, or that's the formula for the circle. All right. Now, how do I solve that? Well, I know that we had x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared. Okay, so I know that's the formula, and if we look, that's set up the same way. Okay, and we got that by using this, the Pythagorean theorem, and we found that formula by squaring that and that to get us that squared, and that'll tell us how far that is. Okay, so if we go through this and we say, all right, where is the center of this circle? Well, we look at right here. Okay, because think about it. Where's the center of the circle? The circle is A, right there, and B. So A comma B. But look right here. We have A comma B. So those are right in the equation, right where we want them to be. So if that's A, comma B, so what is A? Now keep in mind, we're only subtracting A, okay? That minus is in the formula. We just want the A. Well, what is the A? The A is 4. So the center is going to be at 4, comma, and we want just the B. Just the B, not the minus. So the minus stays there, but we want the B, and the B is a positive 2. So 4 and 2. So we see that if we go over 4 and up 2, this is going to be the center of that circle. Okay? So now we have the center, and we need 4 points. Well, 4 points is really easy. It's, you can go up 4 over, 4 left, 4 right, and 4 down, up, whatever direction. We have the center. How do we find out what r squared is? Well, look right here. It's in the same format that we just wrote. So x minus 4 squared, y minus 2 squared, and that equals the radius squared. Well, what's that? That's 15. So what squared is 15? That would be 5 squared. So we see the radius is 5. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 1 point on the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's another point on the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's another point on the circle. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here's a fourth point on the circle. And you can see, and I'm not going to draw the circle very well, but you can see, hey, we have a circle now with 4 points. The radius is 5 whatever units, okay? And we can add the 4 points. And we can do a whole lot more in 4 points, but that's why they say 4, because then it's just easy on the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, so let's look at number 2, and let's just see kind of what it's looking for. Graph the circle x plus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 32. Excuse me, I got lost there for a second. Label the center and at least 4 points on the circle. Okay, now we have to be careful here. X minus a squared plus y minus b squared, okay, equals r squared. We want minus a. Is that minus a? It's not. That is plus 2. So how can we change it so that it looks like a minus a? Well, if you subtract a negative, then you have the right formula. So I'm just going to change that to be x, and then I'm going to say minus a negative 2, okay, squared. And I put that in parentheses just so I remember. That's a negative 2, okay. A is negative 2. And then I'm going to plus, and I'm going to have y minus, and we need b. What is b? Minus a negative 1 squared. And that equals what? What times what is 32? Okay, you can use a calculator and just say, all right, what is the square root of 32? And you would get 5.65. So we're just going to say 5.7. 5.7. Okay. Now, let's look at these. All right, we have our A is negative 2. Now, I know up here it says plus 2, but remember, we've got to have it minus A. So that's why we have minus a negative, because that's the same thing as plus, but it leaves it in the same format. So that's why we have to have that minus a negative, so that it stays the same as the original. So we know our x is negative 2, and our y, same thing here, minus a negative, because we wanted to keep it the same as the original. That means that is b, so negative 1. So that would make that the center of the circle. And we'd go down to negative 2, or over to negative 2, down to negative 1. And that's where we have our first points. So we have -2 and -1. And with that, we go out how far? 5.7. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 0.7. And then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 0.7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0.7. And then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 0.7. So what are our points? Okay, our circle centers right here. So we went out to this point, and remember it was whole numbers up until the end, and then we did the 0.7. So that would be 3.7 comma -1. Okay, so you see how I'm just keeping the 0.7 in there. And up here, it would be -2, got to do the x first, and then up to 4.7, and so on. Okay, so here, we're going the other way. It'd be -7.7, comma -1. And then down here, we just go down, and it's -2, because it just goes right there, comma -6.7. So we have the 4 points and we have the center, and then you can just draw the circle. So that's how this works. Okay, if we move on, we see, all right, that one's a little different. Okay, what do we see about x squared? We notice x squared no longer has, it's not in the right format. Remember, it's got to be x minus a plus, squared, excuse me, plus y minus b squared equals r squared. Okay, so we need a minus a. Well, how can we do that? That's the same thing as saying, okay, x minus 0 squared, right? Because minus 0 just gives us x squared. Nothing changes there. Here we have the plus again, so we've got to change that, and that turns into y minus a -2, so that we still get the plus, and then that equals 3 squared, because 3 squared gives us 9. So now we have our center point, 0, -2, so the center of the circle is going to be right there, and then our radius is 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So you can see the circle is going to be about that big. And you can label the 4 points based on the radius, where we put those 4 points. So that gives you an idea on those first ones. Now let me just show you the beginning of number 4. Graph the circle with the center 4, and the radius 3. Okay, so 4, 0, so here's our radius, and the radius, here's our center, excuse me. The radius is 3, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So there's our circle. What's our formula? Okay, and yeah, we do need to come up with the equation. So remember, our equation is, I'm getting ahead of myself here, x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared. So what's my a? My a is my x value, which is 4. Okay, so x minus 4 squared plus, and then what's my b? My b is my y value, so I'm not going up or down any. Okay, so you can either do y minus 0 squared, or you could rewrite it and say x minus 4 squared plus y squared. this is the most common way, the proper way of writing it. Okay, I'll be on the page. I'm sorry, I was off the page a little bit there. So what I did is I took the original problem and then I just plugged in the numbers I knew. But because that was -0, I changed it to just that. Equals, and what's the radius squared? Well, 3 squared is, you could either do 3 squared or you could rewrite it yet again. X minus 4 squared plus y squared equals 9. Okay, that's usually the most common way to write it, and that's probably the way you do it, but any of those are acceptable. So that gives you a few to start on. Go ahead and go through and solve all these, and let me know if you have any other questions. I'll be more than happy to do more videos. And all right, so hope that helps.